Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at gaming news. This is March 4th through March 10th. And we have some interesting news this week. Not too many things on the docket, but it is an interesting change that we're seeing in our industry. And this is going to affect how games come out and how future projects are done or whether they're scrapped altogether. So let's go ahead and get into some of this. Today we're going to be talking about Embracer Group actually having a bigger problem than I initially realized. And we're going to dig into a little bit of them as a studio and what's going on with some of their smaller pieces that they have, as well as how they're doing as financially as a company. We're also going to dig into Immortals of Aveum, as the CEO is frustrating. We're also going to get into a hilarious Starfield update that I found pretty funny. And then we're going to talk about an update with Rockstar as GTA 6 is getting closer. We're also going to learn about a little update with Arrowhead, which is making Helldivers 2, which has been wonderful, by the way. And they also had a recent update, but I got my own little personal story to share about that. We're also going to talk about an update for Toys for Bob going independent. We're going to talk about what they've made and then what their future is looking forward. And then lastly, we're going to cover the games that are releasing this month. And that little feature I'm going to try to add toward the beginning of every single every single month. And just so we can kind of see some of the bigger stuff that's coming out. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into it. So Immortals of Aveum. So this was a game that came out, really didn't get a lot of fanfare, was kind of quickly overshadowed by Starfield coming out and wasn't very enticing to a lot of people. Maybe some of you played it. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it. But Metacritic gave it, 60s across the board for the most part. And but again, it just kind of came and went. I mean, even Avatar Frontiers of Pandora sold, over 10 million copies by the end of the year, and was a lot more better received game. And Ubisoft has kind of been hit or miss lately. Yeah, Immortals of Aveum just kind of disappeared, but the CEO says that the game failed because it was too close to the release date of Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield. So again, it's like here we have another example. This was some of the stuff, some of the CEOs were frustrated when Elden Ring came out, if we remember, a couple of years ago in February, and just saying like, look, Elden Ring just took over the entire industry by storm. It's From Software's fault. They made such a great game. And that's total BS. Like, CEOs need to finally figure out, hey, we don't want your live service garbage or your games that are boring. And that was probably one of the biggest issues with people that had reviewed so far Immortals of Aveum. Myself, I haven't played it, but, there's other things I would wish to play for the channel. But yeah, we got another CEO blaming, the success of other games as if to say, hey, they don't deserve as much success or as much attention as they're getting. But, this is how capitalism works. Everybody has the equal opportunity to present something, to do something. And, if you want to put in a certain level of work, that's fine. But people can choose what type of work and the amount of work they want to put in, too. And this is what makes a market. And the best stuff sells. Unfortunately, Starfield kind of feels like it's a done game, at least for now. There are some mods and updates being done for it, but Baldur's Gate 3 is still a huge game that's being played by storm, which is great. And even now, Helldivers 2, it's making a ton of money with millions of copies sold. But Immortals of Aveum just seems kind of like a dead game. Now, we don't know how many games or copies they've actually sold. But yeah, people just didn't enjoy this game. Again, the biggest problem is just that it's boring. And so the lesson is, don't build games to be better. Just build them to make them more fun. Right? Like, you're just playing some of the older stuff lately, and some of the stuff I've showcased over last year and this year is just like, wow, this game is actually fun. Like even just playing off the cuff, which you guys voted for this week. Thank you for doing that. It was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I decided to start the game over, and again, there's a lot of cinematics in there in the beginning, and we didn't get into too much combat, but it's just a fun and beautiful game, and it looks great on the Series X. And that's a game that came out almost 5 years ago now. But it's an immersive game. There's different facets of gameplay and mechanics in there, and it's just a fun game. And here we have games like Forspoken and Immortals of Aveum and Redfall, and it's like these games just totally fall flat and soon are forgotten because better games come along, or we go back to playing some of the old stuff. Like some buddies and I played some, Black Ops 2. Lion and I have gotten back into Elden Ring as we're preparing for the DLC. And it's, these are just fun games. They're great to play. And so, let that be a lesson to us too. It's not just about the level of effort or work we're willing to put in. It's about what's required to actually get some good results back. Whether that's in, job related or money related or management or relationship related. I mean, whatever it is, just remember that. It's the level of work that's required to get the results you want, not the amount that you want to put in. Like some of these CEOs haven't even figured out. It's just crazy. They get paid to know this stuff. Since we did mention Helldivers, let's go ahead and get into this. So Helldivers has released exosuits. And they are fun. They do make you feel a little bit more powerful, but there is a problem too. The exosuits right now, they don't have a health bar. At least, that's what I've been seeing through some of the complaints of people liking the exosuits, or the issue too with flamethrowers, and so the flame just kind of goes everywhere and also hurts other mechs or exosuits. and there is an immense amount of power, but they're just kind of big and clanky and not overly fun to use, and then unable to, you're having a great time playing God mode in your exosuit, and then and then you just suddenly blow up, no idea that your suit was critical, and that's kind of a problem. And we're still having launch issues, we're still having stability issues. So I was going to play with a buddy of mine. What's cool is Helldivers 2 is cross-platform, which is great, so PlayStation players can play with PC folks. But I'm on PC and my buddy's on PlayStation. My buddy on PlayStation can play the game, which is great, but he can't finish a mission. The game keeps crashing, or he keeps getting logged out, or whatever. And so there's still stability issues there for the servers. And then with the update for the exosuits that they had, by golly, I can't even play my game now on PC. I just have this black screen. Believe me, I've tried everything I've been able to find so far, from running as administrator, changing settings, deleting profile settings, uninstalling, reinstalling, removing files from the game that could be corrupted and then reinstalling those, verifying integrity of the game files. I've tried looking into C++ drivers. I've tried looking updating NVIDIA and AMD drivers for my graphics cards and settings and stuff. I mean, I've tried everything I can think of. I've already spent a few hours trying to fix this, and still nothing yet. And this just goes to show too why I'm mainly a console guy, because I just want to plug my freaking game in and actually play during my busy life when I got an extra hour, a couple of hours, or like right now when I can't sleep. I just want to be able to plug my game in and just play. So congratulations to you folks that can actually stick it out and deal with all of the issues every time an update comes out for the game that you're playing. Man, I just can't personally do it anymore. It's just rough. But yeah, I'm still willing to try to do Helldivers. I'm not going to do a refund. I'm probably going to wait a couple of weeks, and then I'll try again. But if I can, I would love to stream it for the channel. So we'll see if I can do that. So yeah, we still have a level cap at Helldivers. Still only so many people can get in. There's still these issues, but they are a small studio, and I wonder if they're honestly going to get a little bit of extra help. This is an exclusive of Sony PlayStation, and I feel like they should be better supporting their exclusive a little bit, as not all of their exclusives have done very well. And we also have the data out of the Insomniac hack, where Sony feels like they're a little bit behind the curveball. according to their own emails and memos. And so, if I would think if they really want Helldivers to succeed, but they should be supporting this game better to benefit them in the future, and the sustainability of the game. Some people that are able to play are able to figure it out, but I'm not the only one having black screen issues. This is kind of a common reoccurrence with re-updates of the game. Other people are experiencing issues with just being able to stay in, or the game crashing mid-game, and so they never get their payouts or anything like that. And luckily, it's a cheap game, so some of us are willing to just really kind of stick with it for a while. But I think Sony should be better supporting this game as it's an exclusive of theirs. Because if we keep having these issues, eventually the player base is just going to deteriorate, and the game is unfortunately just going to kill itself. And we don't want that. We want good games. So on to other news. Starfield update. This kind of sounds hilarious. They have some bug fixes. They have some improved radar, which is great. But companions can smile now for photos when you're in your photo mode. And that is the new feature they decided to update for the game. Now, not to say that shouldn't be in the game, but again, there's so many other things to work on or focus on, or even other features to add in the game. It's like, why the heck are you adding that at this point in time when you could be adding bigger features to something else? And supposedly they are working on other things too, but Starfield isn't even really talked about anymore or really played by anybody. Every once in a while I see one friend on that's playing it, but yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. There's also added poses too, some new poses for your robot friend and for camera mode. But again, it just kind of seems worthless. Like, we don't really need that. We weren't asking for that. We're wanting just the game to be more fun and less tedious. That's really what we're asking for. There's still no release date for the DLC of Shattered Skies. We're supposed to be getting that sometime later this year. And honestly, I'm a little worried about Elder Scrolls 6 now at this point. We still have years of development, but we've seen examples, not just with Bethesda, like with Starfield, but with other studios too and publishers where it's like almost they get too big and they start kind of running with some of these ideas that, again, are not very enticing to us gamers. Now, that isn't to say that some gamers are short-sighted, right? Okay, that's like some of us that just think like Immortals of Avium is an amazing game, or that Forspoken was a good game. There's always some folks out there, but the general majority of us really just want games to be fun again. And that's why some of us are playing the older stuff, or why we're excited for the Tomb Raider remaster, or Warhammer Boltgun, which was, probably 6 months ago by now. Or that the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection is coming in literally just 5 days. It's like we want to enjoy these games. And why Baldur's Gate 3 too was also so successful, and Helldivers 2 as well, for even as buggy and as many issues as it has. We want games to be fun, but I am worried about Elder Scrolls 6. Because again, we still haven't received a resolution upgrade for Fallout 4. And we still don't have any new information yet on Fallout 5. The big thing they're pushing now is the TV show. And again, it's like, well, we don't necessarily want the TV show. We want improved games, added features, and new games and IPs from the studios that we grew up with. But yeah, to come up with another Elden Ring, I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, any news I ever glean, actual news, not just rumors, about Elder Scrolls 6 or what's coming up with Bethesda or any other studio, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Next, we got to talk about Embracer Group. So we did talk about some of the layoffs that they had. We also went over that they've had 29 canceled games. They've shut down 7 studios. They've laid off 1,400 people. But usually we found out too that they're selling Saber Interactive, and they're going to be selling Gearbox. And so these are 2 bigger studios that they bought in the just a few years ago for both. So they haven't had these overly long. But Gearbox is for sale, and we know that there is a buyer, and the sale is expected to close pretty soon. Embracer bought Gearbox for 1.3 billion back in 2021, and I imagine Gearbox is going to sell for less due to Embracer's trouble, because they're also selling Saber Interactive for $500 million when they bought them for 525. So they're selling them for a little less than what they paid for them, which that's backwards usually. As a studio does well and as it grows and the experience is added, it costs more to buy that, plus just inflation too. So, Embracer's actually taken a little bit of a loss on selling Saber Entertainment for only $500 million. And Saber Entertainment is going independent. That's what it sounds like. There's some private investors. Again, we don't know the entire story. You guys will be updated here as I know about it. But like with Gearbox, they're also being sold to somebody else. We don't know exactly for how much yet. But yeah, Embracer Group is just having a problem. So this got me curious. It's like, okay, well, what's going on with the company? Well, they've been on a buying spree. They've been buying a lot of studios over the last few years. And it all kind of started with Savvy Games when they had a $2 billion deal that fell through. Now, depending on what I'm reading and the time frame that I'm reading it in, it doesn't necessarily seem that Savvy Games was the particular issue or that was doing the $2 billion deal, but there was some kind of $2 billion deal with a Middle Eastern country, likely Saudi Arabia, and likely Savvy Games, that fell through at the end on their part, and Embracer Group was just left holding the bag and didn't get that, influx of $2 billion that they were counting on. And so without $2 billion of a several billion-dollar company, of course they have tens of billions, right, because of all of the stuff that they own. Congratulations to them, but it's just like, uh-oh, that's not good. You can't just not get $2 billion that you were counting on. And so they've been having issues ever since. And so I was curious, and I took time to look up their ticker symbol, as they are a publicly traded company on the indexes, and it's not looking good. So they went public in 2020. Again, they were buying some of these other studios and stuff beforehand, and even after they went public, they got Saber Interactive and also Gearbox. And they were selling when they started for $25 a share, which is pretty normal, a fair price range to start for a company. And they did get some growth pretty quick to about $25.50 or $35.50 a share, which is pretty good. But now they're $1.75. And that is a massive decrease compared to where they were. That's like a 90% drop or 93% drop in their stock. And taking a look too at their balance sheet, and other things, the last 2 quarters they've had a negative profit margin. So they're actually hemorrhaging money, and they're hemorrhaging it pretty good. Their last quarter, they lost, they were down negative 14.5%. They did have $1.2 billion in revenue, but the income was down $172 million. And so this is why they're selling Saber Interactive and they're selling Gearbox. Now, they have a lot of other things under their umbrella. It's not like they're selling the majority of their stuff. But most of us probably know Saber Interactive and Gearbox. These are pretty big. Now, these are some of the earliest or latest ones that they bought. So these are the ones that they've owned for the least amount of time. But I just don't think they've panned out kind of like they were expecting. And then that $2 billion deal fell through, and that just made things worse. And they're like, look, we have to sell because we're losing a ton of money. And taking a look at their, earnings reports, these people are basically making, the last several reports, $1 billion. And they still can't make money. And so their expenses are too high. We don't exactly know the entire structure of the company or what's going on. But it's almost like they're just too big too fast. Now, something that is interesting with Gearbox and Saber Interactive is they also have kind of like sub-studios under them. So Saber Interactive has 20 others besides them, and Gearbox also has 10. And so probably when these guys sell, those kind of sub-studios are going to go with them. Now, one of them that one of us should probably know by now is Aspyr. Now, some of us have different ways to spell that, but that is A-S-P-Y-R. They did the Tomb Raider Remaster Collection. They've also worked on some other projects in the past, and they're also working in putting out the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection that's coming out in a few days on March 14th. And so I think Aspyr is going to go with Saber Interactive. And what's cool is Saber Interactive is, as they're going to be going independent, they're also going to have some capability to maybe hold on to that KOTOR remake they were doing. So we'll have to see exactly what goes on with that. I will keep you guys updated, but I'm really curious because with Embracer Group's trouble, we're having some studios kind of becoming smaller, and usually, in my opinion, that gets the corporate suits out of the way, and that gets the passion back into the projects that they make. And I'm excited to see what becomes of this. I'm kind of hopeful. I'm hoping that ends up being a good thing. Also, too, we're finding out that Toys for Bob is going independent. So this is basically 3 within a week, almost, of each other, where it's like we have these different studios breaking off from their masters and kind of going out on their own, which I think is wonderful. So lately they did the Spyro Remastered Trilogy, which Reignited Trilogy, which that one's really fun. That's basically 3 games for cheap, and they're done really well. I mean, they stick really close to the essence of those games and the design and everything is just upgraded, and some of their models are redone even better than what Aspyr does, in my opinion. Toys for Bob is a great little studio, but lately they've also been working on Call of Duty. Now, we know when they were working on Call of Duty, some of the people were quitting because they're like, look, this is not what I want to work on. It's not really what I want to do. And so they quit. But we know that Toys for Bob, recently also had a 40% layoff of their workforce, so they lost a ton of people. Some of those were probably people, though, that also were choosing to quit the company, and that was just a good time to exit. But they're looking at becoming independent completely, which is wonderful, and then they're looking at a new partnership with Microsoft. And this is in early stages right now, so we'll probably learn later this year at some point, maybe during the summer or the fall time, of what that deal entails. But I'm kind of curious. And what I like is that it's more of a partnership instead of a subjugation, of Toys for Bob being under Microsoft's umbrella and, just needing to do whatever they tell them to do. When there's more liberty and freedom, which is great, there's more passion put into projects, and there's more excitement there on what devs are working on. And we can see that in their games, too. That's why some of the smaller A and AA games are selling so good compared to the AAAs that have been absolutely garbage. And the quadruple A game that failed so hard. I am so glad that boat is sinking. We know, too, that Activision and Microsoft are also extremely supportive of where Toys for Bob is going in their new direction. And the staff is, the staff is excited too. The devs are excited. They're going to be working on some new IPs. They're going to be also adding some new characters and stuff like that. And so, we're going to have to see kind of what happens. These guys were also responsible for Skylanders, and that was pretty big for a while. So I kind of wonder if they're going to bring that back, maybe? We know, too, that Microsoft has a ton of IPs under their umbrella now, so maybe Toys for Bob is going to be reigniting that's the wrong word for it, maybe revamping a new IP that we haven't seen for a while, maybe like Banjo-Kazooie. We haven't seen a Banjo-Kazooie game in quite some time, and some of us grew up with that and loved that one, too. Maybe a new Crash game? The last game that they had was Crash Rumble. And we basically know most of the people that worked on that game were fired and laid off. That was part of the layoff deal. But we'll see. But it is interesting, like this shift in the gaming industry. We're seeing stuff shifting away from the large gaming companies and moving as to smaller or more independent studios or private investors. And ultimately, I think all of this is a good thing. Again, it doesn't always pan out, but it is more likely that, again, we get some of these games that we're looking for, that we also get less live service. We actually get games that are fun again. And so, I'm hoping that ends up being the case. There was a rumor, too, floating around that Arrowhead was actually going to be acquired by Sony. And the CEO came out and was like, nope, that is not happening. We are going to stay independent. So, sorry, Sony. You're not going to be able to buy Arrowhead. They're enjoying with what they've made with Helldivers 2, but I do think Arrowhead, as I mentioned earlier, that they do need a little bit of extra help. And so if I was Sony, I would actually do that as some kind of short-term agreement or something. Because, the game is still pretty broke for quite a few people. So lastly, let's cover the games that are releasing this month. Some of them already have, of course, but like Star Wars Dark Forces Remastered, that came out on February 28th. We also had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which has been received very well. We also had Expeditions Mud Runner game. So this is a new one. It's not multiplayer, unfortunately, or co-op, but yeah, it's got entirely all new features. I'm excited to get my hands on that and to try it. I haven't even played SnowRunner yet. I'm so behind on stuff, folks, but hey, that's just how it goes. We're also getting Contra this month. Hi-Fi Rush is also coming to PlayStation 5 and will also likely be coming to Switch 2 when the Switch 2 releases. We're getting Dragon's Dogma 2 this month. Also, Rise of Ronin on PlayStation. We're getting MLB The Show 2024. Also getting Alone in the Dark. We also have the Stalker Trilogy, which is out already, which is 3 PC games that are ported over to Xbox. And then we're also getting in, 4 or 5 days, the Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 collection. And I'm so excited to play that. If you guys are interested in playing some good old classic Star Wars Battlefronts, they're going to have 64-player servers, and you guys are on Xbox. There won't be cross-platform, just cross-gen. And I've been thinking, too, of actually doing a video on this, because so many people have been getting stuff wrong about the Star Wars Battlefront collection. But if you guys are interested, let's play. I'd like to stream a little event or whatever where we get our gaming garbage fans and people that are a part of the channel, and we just game together and have a fun time. I think that'd be a blast. But I need to know your ID. Send me a private message on Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee if you'd like to be a part of that. Then I can kind of create a roster. I can kind of organize an event, and some of us can hop on and play and have a good time. So if you're interested, go ahead and let me know. And with that, folks, you can always find me too at Gaming Garbage 22 on YouTube, and also at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. Hang in there, folks. Life's getting tough, or has been tough. It's been tough for me too, but hey, keep your chin up. It's going to get better. And I'll see you guys on the next one.